When I was a teenager, I struggled massively with anxiety. And I remember one doctor said to me that I might always be on anti-anxiety medication and that I might always struggle with my mental health, which is such a terrible thing to say to a young person who is forming their sense of self, especially at that age. And I knew that it was nonsense. And I literally just handed back the medication to him and said, no, thank you. That will not be my story. And my family at the time were like, oh, you've got to listen to the doctor, because they were so worried about me. Some people in my family were not saying that, but, you know, it was such an incredibly frustrating time. And maybe you've been through a similar time. In fact, I went through this again later in my life, where I was deeply struggling with my mental health, with my sense of self, with my confidence. Everything felt wrong. There's been two really big times in my life where this has happened, where I've gone into a dark place. And back then, when I was young, they just said, here's some pills. There you go. We've fixed it. And it obviously wasn't fixed. And it was a really, really painful time, because I knew that I was more than the person I was being at the time. I knew that my anxiety was not me. I felt like I was screaming and no one could hear me. I had really obsessive thinking and OCD in every form you can think of it, like mentally, all of the forms of OCD I experienced. Mainly like thought OCD, obsessive thoughts about things. I was extremely confused. I had so much shame. I felt so scared to be myself. And lots of things happened that made it worse in my teen years. So it was just compounding all the time. And eventually things changed. I was focused on my other things in my life, did my A-levels, met a really good friend. Like, my environment changed, and so my mental health changed. And things got a lot better. And I literally was like, see, I told you, I was fine. And I was doing really well and everything was fine. I went to university, no problems at university until the second year where I did get OCD again. But the point is I'm trying to make in this video is that I went through hell. I went through hell with anxiety. Like, I couldn't find myself. I was completely lost. I didn't know if it would ever end. And then that was, my like teens and early 20s. And then later in my life, recently, like over the last, before I had the baby and after I had the baby, and Noah's nearly 2 now, and I've been coming out of it in the same way that I did back then. And I've noticed this, and luckily I had that experience to know that I would overcome this dark time. I had the experience of knowing that whenever I go through dark times, I get through them. And I refused medication this time. And looking back, I probably could have done with it. I probably really needed that support, because it was a lot of stress I was going through. Relationship stress, money stress, house stress, suddenly becoming a mother. So many things happened that I was so overwhelmed. New diagnosis of ADHD. Like, a lot of stuff happened all at once, and so my mental health just went for an absolute landslide. And I thought, well, I've got this experience to know, and very stubbornly was like, I could do this. And it's almost to the point where, I should maybe have taken medication. Like, I've got nothing against medication, by the way, but I just really didn't want to take it, because I just thought, what's the point? I'm not going to identify with this, and I'm going to come out of it. And I kept thinking I was going to come out of it sooner than I did. So there was a time where maybe it would have been useful for a little while to have some respite. But the fact is that when I was younger, they told me that I might always be that person. And it was like so frustrating. Like I say, it was like everybody's looking at you going, you're that person, you're anxious, this is you, you're going to be like this forever, you're stuck there. And I was thinking, no, I am absolutely okay. I'm misunderstood. I'm not feeling seen. There's all this trauma that no one has talked me through. Like, the people who surrounded me at the time, especially when I was younger, didn't have a clue about childhood trauma. And this is what a lot of people struggle with. The people they're surrounded with don't get it. They don't get that there are things that have compounded the situation over the years that have made it absolutely make sense that you would feel the way that you feel. Everything you've been through in your life leads you to how you perceive things, leads you to how you experience the world, leads you to your beliefs about the world, and your experience of it and your feelings about it therefore make perfect sense. And no one could tell me this. I had to research this myself and find out myself, go to my own therapy. And I did all this work on myself to understand and untangle the knots that I'd got into from my childhood all the way in my adult years. And no, that doctor was wrong. What I'm trying to say is that you're not your feelings. You're not the story. You're not the identity of being anxious. That isn't you. This is just feelings that you have identified with. And I did the same thing. I felt like, even though I didn't want to identify with it, I was still stuck in the story, going round and round and round, saying, how do I get out? How do I get out? How do I get out? And the biggest hack for this is leaning into it. That's the thing that makes you realise what the feelings actually are. And for me, there was a lot of fear of being seen that sabotaged so many things in my life. The fear of being seen, fear of being judged, fear of being criticised, all these things have massively impacted how I show up in every aspect of my life. And until I started to really see that, I was unable to feel good enough, which was massively impacting everything, compounding the stress, because then work doesn't go well, then relationships don't go well, then you're feeling stressed because all these things are falling apart. And it's mad how much literal stress we create through beliefs of just simply I'm not good enough, or believing that someone who said something was right. We get to say, and I knew deep down that I wouldn't stay like that and that I would get out of it. And this is what I absolutely wholeheartedly now believe. There was a few things. Community was a massive, huge healer for me. And even recently doing this pantomime, I cannot tell you, it's like I click back into place. Being around people who have a common goal, creative, doing something fun, lighthearted, my nervous system just literally goes, oh, thank you. You're now returned to normal. No healing needed. It was just the environment, right? And then, just surrounding yourself with people who don't rush you or gaslight you. The gaslighting is insane, the amount of people who will gaslight you. So you have to be aware of what gaslighting is, which is when people deny your reality or just play it down or make their problems worse than yours or something. Whenever you're around people like that, you feel awful. You feel like you have to scream to be heard and that no, your feelings don't matter. And I felt like that for years. And when you start owning who you actually want to be, also another really big important thing is when you realize how misaligned your life is, doing things that you actually don't want to do will really affect your anxiety levels. There's so many different pieces that have come into place for me. Understanding what's aligned, what's not aligned. Understanding what my hell yeses and my hell nos are. Understanding how I was people pleasing in relationships. Understanding what my needs are. Understanding my way of operating in the world specifically gave me more of a roadmap to understand how to navigate relationships. Set boundaries. When you've got really weak boundaries, you're going to feel anxious as hell. And when you're going through a stressful thing in life, you'll feel stressed. And it's normal. There is nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're responding normally, exactly normally to the exact life that you've had specifically, and everything you feel is right. So, honestly, if I can get out of that hell, then I know that you can too. Because when I say I went through hell, I really, really emotionally was in the absolute thick of a nightmarish storm. I thought I was never, ever going to get out of it at points. but it's past. But yet again, just like when I was younger, when I was a teenager, it has passed. And I've absolutely returned to myself, which is something that I thought I'd lost for a while. I thought it had gone, and it never really goes. It just gets clouded by, ideas, other people's opinions, beliefs, trauma that comes up, and it can be worked through. And with the right conversations, with the right people, you will naturally release some of those emotions that you're holding on to protect you. All of it is about self-protection and regulation at the end of the day. The body is anxious because it's trying to regulate. It's trying to find a way to regulate, and it then creates more anxiety-provoking situations, because it's just trying to do what it knows how to do. But that's not you. Don't say, I'm an anxious person. You might be a sensitive person. You might be prone to anxiety. Some people are prone to anger. Some people are prone to shame more than others. And maybe you're more prone to anxiety, but it's not who you are. And there'll be times in your life where it's not there at all. Not like this. So I just wanted to say, the only way out is through leaning in, through having difficult conversations with yourself, being in the safe company of safe people who won't judge you, who will tell you that it's okay for you to feel what you feel, and all of your thoughts are all safe. And this too will pass. So I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you in the next one.